people, but especially for children, being admitted to the hospital is one of the worst experiences they can go through. It's definitely not where I would go for a social hour. First, it's the reason you're there, and then having to wait hours and hours trying to figure out what's going on while wearing a one-size-fits-no-one hospital gown. Only to be told at the end of it that something even worse is going on and you're going to have to be admitted. For most of us, we can bounce back from that pretty quickly. But for children who have special needs, this is almost a daily routine for them. What we started out doing 5 years ago was just giving them a way to be comfy and actually have something that fits them in the hospital. Last year, it took on a very different meaning. For me, it started out as being admitted to the hospital, being told you have an abscess, we're gonna drain it, you'll go home, no big deal. Getting to the hospital and being told, hey, by the way, you're gonna be dead by morning if we don't do emergency surgery, was not exactly in our plans. Not really remembering what happened that week, I do remember how I felt. I felt like a burden. I hated everything that was going on. Nothing went as planned. Every day, new information was being given, and I just wanted to be me. Day 4 into that admission, we finally washed my hair in the sink of the hospital, which is a feat in and of itself, not to mention all the tubes and IVs and wires going on. I was able to put on my own clothes for the first time in days, and it was amazing. I could relax, my anxiety went down. I just felt a little bit more like me. We went home at the end of that week at long admission, and things sort of went into routine. 4 months, nearly to the day of that admission, our world was rocked as a family. My son had fallen and gotten hurt because I don't have grace, and apparently they inherited the lack of it. Didn't think much of it. The next day rolled by. He was still angry and aggressive and just in so much pain. He has autism. He doesn't usually complain of pain. So for him to say, I hurt, and be so angry and upset, something was wrong. I felt his ribs, and I was like, something doesn't feel right there. Pretty sure you broke it, so let's go get it checked out. I would have bet money on the fact he broke that rib. But when the doctor walked in and said, there's a shadow on his x-ray, and you can feel a growth. I don't know what it is, and you're gonna have to be referred out in order to figure out what it is. And we said, okay. And we went home, and the next 4 weeks was spent every day almost going to and from a children's hospital an hour from home, tests, lab work, x-rays, CAT scans, you name it, we did it. I worked in that hospital for almost 2 years, and I saw more of that hospital in those 4 weeks than I did the 2 years I worked there. We ended up being scheduled for surgery. The results were, we don't know what it is until we can take it out and look at it. So we said, okay, trying not to psych him out. We was like, we just won't talk about it and he'll be okay. Didn't work out at all. He was obsessive over the fact that mommy had broke her promise to him, and that mommy was willingly going to turn him over to somebody else who was going to hurt him in order to make him feel better. Doesn't make any sense when you say it that way either. 2 days before his surgery, him and I had the worst argument I have had with a child and my worst parenting moment ever. He looked at me, and I don't remember exactly what he said, but I drew up to my full height, which is only 5'1". He's this tall. And I stared down at him, and I said, I don't care What you want, what you think, how you feel, it doesn't matter. You have to have this surgery so I know you won't die. He ran off to his bedroom, sobbing and bawling, and I felt about this big. I crumpled against the refrigerator. I was so mad, and I had just admitted to my child, who I was trying to be strong for, that I was just as scared as he was. A couple hours later, he came up and he says, I don't want to be one of your sick kids in the hospital. I love Minecraft. I hate school. I want to learn science, but not at school. I just want to play Minecraft, and I want to keep my bone. I don't want to give the doctor my bone. But if I have to, can I have a Pokemon gown? I have a huge workload, but I definitely found time to make him his gown. We made it. We left it that morning, and it wasn't until we got into the parking deck of the hospital that he was like, my gown's not here. And I said, well, we're just gonna have to put on our big brave faces and you can wear it when you get home, which worked out great. And he has worn it every night that week, and he wore it once a week to this day as pajamas. He doesn't know it's here. I asked him last week, I said, why do you still wear it? You know, we got our happy ending. The growth was benign. This was in October. We are well back into our normal routine. You don't have to wear it. And he says, it makes me feel special. It makes me feel safe. My mommy made it for me. And I don't feel alone because you don't cuddle with me in my bed. I'm like, okay. The hardest part of that whole experience, though, was realizing I was walking the shoes of the families I work with every day. 10,000 children every year in the United States are admitted to the hospital for at least a month. They have to undergo procedures and testing that they don't understand. And every day, their parents tell them, you don't have a choice. This is what's going to keep you alive. It is a very real threat that their child may not wake up the next morning. Over the past 5 years, we have lost nearly 100 kids in our organization alone. For a lot of our children, they get to wear their gowns, they save them for emergencies in their car. Some, it's even been the first thing they have been able to wear, ever. Some, it's the first thing they've worn in weeks because they're fully accessible to the staff, unlike their regular clothing. Each gown is made to their interests, what they like, their size. It has their name on them. Down here. It represents a part of who they are that they don't get in the hospital anymore. For some of the children, it's the last thing they've ever worn as well. And I've had a few families even say, we buried our child in their gown so they wouldn't have to feel alone. That's when you realize you are making an impact much greater than just keeping kids comfy. These gowns inspire hope, and it really changes the face of being in the hospital. These kids can look past their diagnosis. They can see themselves for who they are rather than what they have. So instead of being the cancer kid in room 74, they can be David, who loves Pokemon and Minecraft and hates school. they embody these children, and they really help just make the journey of being in the hospital a little bit better. They still know the next IV, blood draw, surgery, you name it, is going to hurt. They know they're not going home anytime soon. But they finally have a voice inside that hospital setting. They can choose what they wear. They can choose how people talk to them. Staff will come in, and instead of trying to be like, "Hi, I'm Dr. blah, 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 and today we're gonna do this," they can walk in and be like, "Oh, hey, you love the Nats. Did you see they won last night?" It's a completely different scenario for brand new doctors and care members of a team. Parents can even at times forget they're in the hospital. It transforms a hospital room. People relax, they feel more comfortable, and because their kids are comfortable and coping, parents can cope. It allows children to understand that they are different, but they are not any less because they have cancer or a heart defect. They may not be able to play sports as well as other kids, but they can code. They can access the whole world around them from their hospital room and see themselves in that bigger picture. Not that the world is going on without them. We allow them to use their quirkiness in ways that they didn't even think possible. For many of these kids, they have short lives. 30% of children diagnosed with special needs, more so complex medical conditions, won't live to see their 5th birthday. Why should they have to wear a boring hospital gown in the process? We're not trying to change the world. There's nothing that I will do that will cure their cancer, fix their heart forever, or even allow them to never have to be in a hospital again. But we can change their world and how they see themselves despite all of that.